Reddit, ask me anything. I'm a Hong Konger amidst the protests here. Ask me anything. I'm a young Hong Kong person in the midst of the protests and police brutality. Ask me anything about the political situation here. I am sided with the protesters. Went to a few peaceful marches, but I will try to answer questions as unbiased as possible. Are you at risk of losing your job, or have you been able to hide your identity? I actually don't have a job yet, lol. I'm still in school. However, during peaceful marches I doubt police was using facial recognition. What is the end game of the protests? Are Hong Kongers looking for independence from China, or continued autonomy, or something else? Might be hard to tell. But is there support amongst the general population on the mainland for Hong Kong or democracy? What have you seen on the mobilization of the Chinese military? Do you have safe places you can go if China becomes aggressive or murderous? I don't live anywhere near the border, so personally I haven't seen anything. The mobilization scares us all because China is being China. But I doubt the 4th of June 1998 will happen again. I was born here and I've lived here all my life. So I don't really want to move, but because of family in Canada, I could move to Canada. I could also move to Taiwan. Edit. Sorry, I meant the 4th of June 1989, not 1998. How much military presence is amassing at the border? What do you think will happen with it? Are you scared of a Xiaonan 2.0? I'm not sure as of figures for the military gathering, but I'm pretty sure that it's for intimidation and for deploying Chinese police to help the HKPF. I am scared of a Xiaonan 2, but in my opinion that is highly unlikely. Hi, is there anything we who live really far away and have no money can do to help out? Well, if you're in certain places you could attend peace marches that show support for HK. You could also try to design posters and send them to certain people to really raise awareness. Sorry if this doesn't really make sense though. What do you think the US's role in the support of Hong Kong should be? Has our response been too weak, in your opinion? No offense, but I personally think that Trump isn't really taking us seriously. I think the US should threaten or propose more sanctions against China. I've heard all about people around the world really eager to help but have no ways to. So I think it's more of Trump's personal problem by saying I have zero doubt that if President Xi wants to quickly and humanely solve the Hong Kong problem, he can do it. Personal meeting? Does the Chinese military build-up on the border frighten you? The Chinese military has always been a threat to us anyways, but the build-up to me is specifically rather terrifying. However, I don't think that this will be a repeat of the 4th of June 1989 due to the multiple warnings and just how China is linked in with the world. Have you thought of all dressing up as Winnie the Pooh while waving American flags, singing the US national anthem while a group of people in a large tank costume chase you down? We need more people like you. Is there anything Westerners could do to help besides spreading the word of what is going on? I think that if you live in a certain place you could potentially attend peace marches showing support, or organize a small march if you're brave enough and willing to. You could also raise concern to local politicians or send letters to politicians telling them to support HK and the entire movement. Sorry if this doesn't really mean anything to you. This is my first Ask Me Anything. Hi mate, thanks very much for doing this Ask Me Anything. Fellow Hong Konger here but have moved to London and live here full time. Just wanna say fully support the peaceful protests and it's amazing what you guys have achieved. Seeing the images of the 2 million people march was breathtaking. My questions to you. The standard of living and economic equality gap is pretty large in HK. The government is not doing a huge amount to improve it. Do you think this fact is part of the reason why protests are so emotive? And what is the best way to address this moving forward? Carrie Lam and a large number of HK politicians have been almost non-existent since the protests started. If she did resign, is there anyone in HK you would stand behind? What does the next leader have to do to impress you? In regards to point number 5 in the demands, whilst the HK police have been pretty awful, there are some extremist protesters who have caused real harm. Building vandalism, petrol bombs, violence, in the extreme forms, etc. If individual members of the police are to be held accountable for their acts of brutality, should the protesters not be too? Thanks again. Good luck in the coming months. The main focus of the protests are the 5 demands. and some argue for independence from China as well. However, I'm sure some protesters fight for just a better place to live here. The disparity is quite big. But this probably isn't the reason why the protests are so emotive. I think it's bursting with emotion and passion because the Hong Kong people are fed up of being oppressed. If Carrie Lam did resign, then we don't know who will be chief executive next. Honestly, I don't really know the Hong Kong politicians, so I don't know who to stand behind. The fifth point in the demands is to free anyone arrested because of protests. The HKPF has been terrible, and yes, I don't at all deny the fact that some protesters caused violence and harm. However, people need to keep in mind that this is only a small portion of the protesters. However, there is evidence that undercover police dressed up as protesters hurled petrol bombs to make it seem like protesters caused extreme violence. Real protesters should definitely be held accountable for their actions, but if caught, there should be a less harsh sentence. This is all just in my opinion. Are people prepared for the worst, and do they have any kind of escape strategy in the Chinese launch military-style attacks against protesters? I personally highly doubt that China will send military into Hong Kong for their purposes, but people have definitely moved assets and funds to other countries such as Taiwan or the US. A small portion of my funds have been moved to Taiwan should anything happen. People are pretty much ready for anything. The news here is saying the Chinese paramilitary is surrounding HKWTH. Is that? Well, not exactly surrounding, just presence on the border. The Chinese paramilitary has mobilized near the border, which raises concerns of another the 4th of June 1998. However, I think it's somewhat of a scare tactic against the protesters.